Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the GCNC's Worldview, where we talk about the people, places, and businesses driving forward the cannabis and hemp markets around the world. I'm excited this week. It's one of the first episodes we've actually recorded in 2023. We pushed a couple of episodes out, of course, but they were all at the end of last year. And so we're starting the year off really looking at all of these different global movements. And with me today is the president of WAFBA and the founder of the NOCO Hemp Expo, Morris Beegle. Morris, thanks so much. We have talked about having you on this podcast for at least 2 years, and we finally made it happen. So thanks for carving out the time. Really appreciate you being here.
Well, I appreciate it, Chris. It's always good to catch up with you. I actually wish I was in Mexico with you right now.
Thanks. Yeah, it is 82 and sunny, and the beach is very pleasant. But
Sure.
at the same time, I'm headed out tomorrow for some trips up to Lyft in Vancouver, and then I'm going to be passing through Colorado at the end of the week, hopefully breathe in some mountain air. So the nice thing about this industry, I think, is we get to, exist in all of these different wonderful places.
Yeah, it's been beneficial to be able to travel to various countries and continents over the last several years.
Yeah, for sure. So first, before we dive into that, because I really want to talk about your recent travels to Thailand and what you've seen in the markets there. But first, let's talk about WAFBA and what that acronym is and what that company is, because I learned something even before we came on in hearing about all the different things you've got your hands in.
So WAFBA, We Are for Better Alternatives, is really kind of the umbrella holding company for all of the little entities that I've come up with and my ex-partner Elizabeth Knight over the years. I recently became full 100% owner of WAFBA about a year ago now. And it all started out with Colorado Hemp Company in 2012, and then Tree Free Hemp, which is a hemp paper and printing company, in 2013, then NOCO Hemp Expo in 2014, Let's Talk Hemp, our media platform and education platform, in 2015. And from there, we've created merchandise lines and a hemp guitar line, which you can see behind me right here, Silver Mountain Hemp Guitars, which are hemp body guitars and guitar cabinets and amplifiers made out of industrial hemp, which is why I got into the space in the first place. It wasn't about recreational cannabis or medicinal or even CBD. It was really about all the cool environmental materials type things you could make with hemp and the cool food products with hemp seeds and hemp seed oil and so forth.
Yeah. So, I love guitars. I wish I was more talented in playing them. How do those function relative to a traditional guitar? I mean, does the tone change? Does anything? They look beautiful.
They are, and they function just as well. The materials up until this point have been a little bit tricky to manufacture. We use hemp wood from Kentucky, which is hempwood.com, and those guys have done a great job creating a pressed hemp board product. And then Canna Grove, which was created by Larry Serbin from Hemp Traders, is another composite hemp board. And that's really what we utilize. And it's just a matter of pressing. It's just another type of material that you can make guitar bodies or cabinets out of. And it's very hard. But as long as you're utilizing good pickups and hardware and everything, they stand up and sound just as good as everything else.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of these days I'll have to hear somebody who's competent play it. So
yeah, well, come to NOCO. We'll make sure that somebody is competent that can play it.
I will be there this year. Last year I was in Mexico at the same time and had flight problems. Didn't actually make it up there, but this year I'm planning ahead. And
well, that's good because you're on the speaker schedule.
That's good to know. Yeah, and and Gateway Proven Strategies, of course, the parent company of GCNC, is going to have a booth there. So we will we'll touch on that some more near the end of the show. But talk to me a little bit about Q4 of last year, because I know you were traveling and talking to folks in Thailand and passed through Japan. And that whole part of the world, I think, for folks is definitely interesting. It feels like there's a lot of opportunity there, but it's also a bit of a black box. People aren't quite sure what's real, what's hype, what's happening. And I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of weeks. I think I'm starting to put it together. But what was your perspective?
Well, Thailand, I flew through Japan on the way there and on the way back, and I didn't spend much time in Japan. It was airport, and Japan isn't really on the radar as far as cannabis as a whole. They had CBD legalized quasi, but I'm not exactly sure. Japan's its own little funky, finicky market that's got a long ways to go. There's a rich history there, and there's a rich history with cannabis and hemp throughout Asia. But in the last 100 years or so, like the rest of the modern world, has come into the drug wars and all of that. But Thailand has been researching industrial hemp and growing test plots for quite a while. There's 15 to 20 years, really. There's been things going on there. The monarchy there has supported the development of industrial hemp. Small farmers, and how can this become part of their regular rotation for agriculture? So there is support from the government on the industrial hemp side of things. And there seems to be very good support on this now adult use medical side. When we went there, there was as many dispensaries in the streets of Bangkok as going through like Denver. And I was quite surprised to see that much recreational cannabis on the streets. The dispensaries were all over the place. And for my takeaway from the event there, the government is very keen on being partners with stakeholders in the industry, rather than some of this adversarial type of relationship that we might have here in the United States with the government, or Europe with the governments there. And that was a big takeaway for myself and a lot of people from Europe and Canada. It was like, wow, I wish our government really wanted to partner with us and make this industry what it can be, through a good relationship that's like a partnership rather than the adversarial type relationship it seems that we continue to have here and in Europe and in Canada. And so we were all kind of jealous about what it looks like at the current moment. And obviously governments change, bureaucracies, and they could certainly flip a 180 at any given time. But as it stands right now, it's pretty promising.
Yeah, I have heard that as well, having talked to some folks recently who have been, so you're focused on the hemp side, and I've talked to some folks who are also heavily engaged in, say, the recreational and medicinal markets, and they're saying the same thing, that there's still a lot of details to be sorted through, that there's a lot of things that would be considered in our day-to-day conversations gray market, in terms of the consumption processes and the dispensaries and all that. But there is a willingness and an interest to move things forward in a productive manner. And I think,
Right. And
yeah, I think that's great. So
yeah, the Thai Hemp Association has gone out to other industry associations and created MOUs with, let's say, the Textiles Association and the automotive and all these different verticals that hemp could potentially play a role in. And so they've got MOUs with like 12 different industry groups, which I think is very appealing and interesting. And the university side of things, from a research standpoint, seems to be evolving quite nicely as well. So the relationship between public and private seems very optimistic, and they really want to have the Thai entrepreneurs and the Thai businesses driving this, and not necessarily international companies coming in and taking over everything. Although there are opportunities from a minority stakeholder position to come in and partner with some of these groups and provide expertise from America or from Europe or wherever. So there are opportunities for groups to come in and get to be part of this market, while the ties will ultimately control it, at least the way it is now. And I think that that's good. They should control their own market, and they shouldn't have a bunch of foreigners coming in and trying to take over and run everything.
Yeah. No, I've always felt that that's a better approach. You often find if you just open it completely that you lose complete control of your market. But if you create collaborative opportunities, then that's, you know, it tends to work out much better for everybody, because people in their home markets pay attention to people that are on the ground there and can benefit from it. Also impressive to hear they're proactively creating relationships with other industry associations. I feel somewhat like, even with the moves we've seen in the United States on the legalization front, that at the end of the day, there's this willful ignorance of what all of the real opportunities are in terms of, you know, different industries and partnerships that are mostly economic, but they try and make it some sort of high and mighty moral authority kind of discussion.
Right. I'd like to mention too, so the Asia International Hemp Expo was the first big expo that they've done there in Bangkok. And I know that there's going to be more coming this year that are crossing between hemp and adult use cannabis. And there was adult use THC stuff on the floor there, but there was really good programming. There was really good attendance. The energy was good on the floor. It reminded me of like 2018 NOCO, where there's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm. The market hasn't stalled or crashed or got stagnant like we've seen here in the United States, with CBD being an oversupply and the market's just bottomed out, so to speak. And the THC market's been pretty tiresome and fatigued. So there's still that sense of newness going on there. And the programming that was put together is lots of great speakers from 5 different continents. And it was just wonderful to be involved in an event like that with other stakeholders from around the world. Good programming, good energy. And I think they've done a good job initially trying to bring in the right folks to lay some, just provide some initial thoughts and, you know, insight into how the market can develop and the do's and don'ts of where it should go from here.
Yeah, that's great. I need to reach out to them and see if we can't pull in more of a collaboration and idea sharing project between the GCNC and folks on the ground there in Thailand, because you know, I was having a discussion this morning with a group of our members talking about 2023 and what the focus really is going to be, having acknowledged some of the business challenges that were in 2022 and saying, look, it's really coming down to building responsible businesses that are built on sound distribution flows and opportunities, and having in my personal opinion, a global view instead of a singular market view, because that's not how business works. And so it's nice to hear how you know, these different markets do have energy and can create impetus. I think that's of benefit to the world, but also hopefully to those that are paying attention in places like North America as well.
Right. I totally agree.
So now that you've gotten back and you've sort of are looking at 2023 and towards NOCO coming up here in a couple of months, what do you see as the challenges and opportunities for the hemp markets in North America and specifically the United States this year? Are we still going to be pretty much bottomed out, or is there some light?
Well, we're actually, I don't know when this is going to broadcast, but we're releasing our Let's Talk Hemp 2023 Opportunities Report next week on the 20th, which we've had a lot of great contributors with this report. Bo Whitney, Eric Singular, Jonathan Miller from the Roundtable, Xavier from Clark Hill,
Yeah.
Gene
Lots of
Lotus.
great
And so
friends.
we
Yeah.
ASA. We've got a bunch of good people that have put together their insights for 2023 and a recap of 2022. And I would like to think that we've bottomed out as far as the amount of acreage that's being grown, and that you're going to start seeing in 2023 and moving forward that we're going to be growing more for fiber and for grain. I also think that there will be an uptick in cannabinoid growth again, because it seems that there's a search for good flower and biomass at this point. A lot of the stuff that was 2018, 2019, 2020 that had like oversupplied the market, that stuff's either no good anymore, or they've run through and utilized that with D8 and all this intoxicating cannabinoid side of things, which I think will be addressed more heavily this year. Colorado is addressing it right now. There was a task force that just came out with a report for their SB, I think 22 or whatever that number is. I always get these numbers confused when it comes to all these different legislative numbers, because there's just so many of them flying around from all the states. But I do think that we'll see some movement as to how cannabinoids will be regulated federally and on the state level. The FDA has come out and said that they're going to step up and provide some guidance. And I guess until they actually do, we'll see. But that in itself, I'm not sure how I feel about, because Janet Woodcock, who is like heading the FDA right now, doesn't have the best track record when it comes to her position with cannabis and her relationship with the pharmaceutical industry, which she's like to rubber stamp a lot of pain medications without, if you do the Google search, without me just throwing people under the bus, which I'd like to throw the FDA under the bus, because I think they deserve to be. And I think that they've proven that with how they've handled COVID and a lot of the information they put out there, and a lot of our agencies. But I do think that we should see some movement as to how things will be regulated from a supplement standpoint and a food and beverage additive and ingredient. And I do think that we're going to see positive movement on the fiber and grain side of things starting. But I think that we'll see more positive movement come 24 and 25. I think we're picking up the pieces this year. I do think that we bottomed out, and I hope that that is the case, and that there is a light somewhere off in the distance that we're going to get to.
And it's not a train.
That the more people that want to jump on this train and help us move towards that light, it's going to be better for all of us. So everybody is welcome to join the hemp and cannabis train to try to move through the muck that's still out there. And come to the Broadmoor at the end of March for NOCO Hemp Expo and hop on this train. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, let's I'm looking forward to that. Of course, the GCNC, we're excited to have NOCO Hemp Expo as part of our event network. It's the only event in the event network that's focused on the hemp side of the discussion. And that's mostly because it's the best place to go for that information. And as you're looking into the show and into the programming and all of that, what are some of the top topics that you are going to be trying to cover down on for folks who are going to come?
Well, we're going to be talking about, it's really a health and wellness and environmental expo and conference. And so the conferences that we've got an advocacy and policy conference that kicks off on the 29th. We'll talk about the state regulatory situation, where it's been at the last year, what's going on in various states and on the federal level, advocacy that we can all do to push this in the right direction. Then we've got a business and investor conference on the 30th. And then we've got a agriculture and academia conference on the 31st. And we have a lot of universities that are jumping on board to provide insight as to some of the research that's been going on. We did receive about $50 million in hemp-specific grants from this Climate Smart Commodity USDA program in 2022. So there's a win for the hemp industry. I mean, that's more money that's come into the hemp industry from the government than ever. So that's a positive. And I think that that's just the starting point. And I think that we know that if this industry is going to grow and become what it can be, that we have to have government support. The oil and gas industry, the timber industry, and all these other industries have had all kinds of subsidies for the last 100 years. And we know that hemp provides a unique climate opportunity from an agriculture standpoint. So I think that the USDA is on board. And it's funny, we got the USDA that's really showing quite a bit of support. And then we've got the FDA, who's really the antagonist over here. And it's like the battle of the alphabet agencies. And hopefully the USDA will come crashing down on
Well,
this.
yeah, we can all hope for that. And, I wish I could say I was shocked that government agencies don't seem to be able to communicate effectively between themselves, but I'm not. Sadly, it's sort of expected. And when you said the words, the FDA is going to take provide some guidance, I almost laughed. But it's just so sad. The word guidance and the FDA don't really go together. So let's hope that the folks who are actually funding smart movement and smart growth through the industry are the ones that sort of rise to the top, especially in the next couple of years.
Well, one thing that we just got confirmed, and we'll be announcing this, and it may be out before this is out, whenever this comes out.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks, so we'll be able to put the report and all these announcements in the chat and in the post, which will be great.
But one of our programming confirmations is we have got Charlotte's Web. I think we've got Jared Stanley, and then we've got two folks from Major League Baseball. And if you know, Charlotte's Web went into partnership with Major League Baseball for a $30 million marketing campaign. They're the first CBD company to go into this type of joint marketing partnership with major sports league. I know that NASCAR's done some stuff and maybe some of the others, but when we're talking Major League Baseball, basketball, hockey, or football, baseball has said we're in. And so the kind of the drug policy guy from Major League Baseball will be at this talk, as well as the gal who's head of global partnerships for Major League Baseball. And I think that this is a big win for the hemp industry. And I don't know what the FDA thinks about it, but obviously the drug policy guy from Major League Baseball, they've given it the green light that it's like, this is something that we don't have a problem with our players utilizing. CBD, right. Full spectrum, that's something, it's a wellness product, and we're not going to prohibit athletes from utilizing this because it provides benefits. And I think that that's a huge statement.
Yeah, I love rational thought. It's great.
I do too. Just think if our government had rational thought.
Yeah, no, on the one hand, it's exciting. I look forward to hearing that talk and being there and seeing this. And on the other hand, I'm like, this shouldn't be news, but it is. It's really big news. And I remember as that deal was coming out, of course, Charlotte's Web is also a member of our GCNC group. And it was, great to hear from them the day after that deal went through, the excitement and frankly, just the ability to change the national conversation and the global conversation around sports and the use of cannabinoids in general. So I love it. Well,
I do too. And I hats off to Charlotte's Web, who really been pioneers in developing really good research and data and the safety efficacy of CBD and full spectrum. And the Stanley brothers have just done, and the team that's been around them have just done a really good job being leaders in this space and doing it the right way. And they haven't taken crap from these folks either. They've stood up to them and provided evidence-based feedback and arguments against what the FDA has put out there, which necessarily hasn't been very science-based in a lot of cases.
Correct. And I agree. They deserve some serious kudos, and Charlotte's Web as a company does as well. I know, they've been championing these conversations for years. You have been also, and it's why I'm so glad that we've been able to have you on today. And I am looking forward to seeing you in Colorado in the coming months. And I'm sure our paths will cross in other markets around the world this year as well. So thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Have a great day.
Of course. And to all of you out there listening to the GCNC Worldview, thanks so much for doing that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We're easy to find. Just look on all of your different podcast platforms. And of course, if you ever need to reach out to us, just look at GPS Global or GCNC.global. We'll be happy to talk to you. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next time.